When we gaze upon the Hollywood of today, we witness a sprawling global factory of dreams. Stars like Taylor Swift and Margot Robbie stand as sovereign empires in their own right, owning their master recordings and setting their own terms. Yet, it's easy to forget a time when the phrase movie star was non-existent. Back then, actors were faceless, easily replaceable, and paid mere pocket change for their work. They toiled in anonymity, their contributions barely recognized beyond the flickering screens. Then came a remarkable woman, with a heart forged of steel and a head crowned with golden curls. Mary Pickford was more than just America's sweetheart. She was a revolutionary force who confronted the most powerful men of her era with a defiant declaration: "I will not be your property. I will be your boss." This is not just a biography. It is a sweeping chronicle of conflict, artistry, and the relentless domination of an entire industry by one indefatigable woman. This narrative is a deep exploration and expansion of earlier summaries, shifting away from mere recitation toward a vivid literary portrait. It captures the smells, the chill, the grit, and the electric pulse of a world on the cusp of transformation. The Architect of the Silver Screen, Volume 1, The Crucible and the Spark, Part 1, The Forging of Gladys Smith, 1892 to 1908. The Victorian Winter. To truly grasp the steel that coursed through Mary Pickford's soul, one must first understand the biting cold of late 19th century Toronto. Born Gladys Louise Smith in 1892, she entered the world in a modest brick home on University Avenue. Her father, John Charles Smith, was a man of charm but little means, a purser on Niagara riverboats, forever carrying the scent of lake water and an aura of unfulfilled dreams. In 1897, tragedy struck. John Smith died in a devastating accident, leaving Charlotte Smith, his widow, to care for 3 small children, Gladys, Lottie, and Jack. The terror of that moment in Victorian society cannot be overstated. A woman without a husband was socially invisible, stripped of protection and status. Charlotte had no money, no social standing, and 3 hungry mouths to feed. Their descent was into a poverty deeper than lacking funds. It was a haunting presence, a ghost whispering, "You are not safe." Charlotte took to sewing, her fingers raw and bleeding as she worked late into the night by candlelight. She took in hemming and mending, desperate to keep her family afloat. Yet the ghost of poverty lingered relentlessly. This ghost would drive Gladys Smith for the next 80 years of her life. Every $1 million she later earned was merely another brick in the wall she was building to prevent that merciless winter of 1897 from ever returning. The child laborer. The theatre was never a luxury or a dream for the Smith family. It was a lifeline. A stage manager lodging at their boarding house saw potential in the children for small parts. At just 7 years old, Gladys made her stage debut with the Valentine Stock Company. The burden was immense for such a tiny girl. While other children played with dolls or learned their ABCs, Gladys was mastering the rhythm of the stage. By the age of 10, she had become the primary breadwinner for her family. She was no longer a child, but a little trooper, spending her formative years on the road, the grueling, grimy circuit of traveling theaters across North America. The hardships were brutal, living out of wicker trunks, sleeping in freezing, bug-ridden boarding houses, and eating cheap performers' specials in greasy diners. Gladys learned the brutal realities of the business from the ground up. She understood swiftly that if she didn't perform, she wouldn't eat. She mastered the art of commanding rowdy audiences in mining towns and charming, cynical managers. By 16, she possessed the business savvy of a seasoned tycoon, wielding discipline, emotional restraint, and survival instinct like weapons. The hunger for Broadway. Yet, the road was not enough for Gladys. Her ambitions surged beyond the dusty boards of traveling theaters. She set her sights on Broadway, the illustrious Great White Way. In 1907, in a bold move, she practically ambushed the legendary producer David Belasco. She didn't ask for an audition, she demanded one. Belasco was taken aback by this tiny girl with golden curls and fierce determination. He cast her in the Warrens of Virginia, beginning the polishing of the Gladys Smith persona. But even Belasco couldn't foresee that the stage was on the brink of obsolescence. A flickering new medium was rising from the Nickelodeons of the slums, and Gladys was about to step into its heart. Part 2. The Biograph Revolution, 1909-1911. The Flickers and the Shame. By 1909, the Smith family was once again destitute. The Broadway season concluded, and hunger gnawed anew. Out of sheer desperation, Gladys walked into Biograph Studio at 11 East 14th Street, New York. At the time, moving pictures were considered a joke, a disreputable, low-class pastime for immigrants and laborers. Broadway actors often hid their faces under hats or changed their names when working in film, to avoid being tainted by its stigma. Gladys felt this shame deeply, yet she needed the $5 a day. The meeting with Griffith. Inside the dim studio, she encountered D.W. Griffith, a failed actor and frustrated poet who was beginning to realize that film could do more than merely record theater. It could capture the human soul. Their meeting was a clash of titans. Griffith deemed Gladys too short and too fat for his vision. Gladys found Griffith arrogant. Yet, when the camera rolled, something miraculous occurred. Griffith saw that the lens adored her. Every micro-expression, flick of an eyelash, every subtle breath was amplified on screen. He offered her $5 a day. Despite empty pockets, Gladys looked him square in the eye and said, "I am a Belasco actress. I want 10. Such audacity stunned Griffith, but he sensed her value. He paid the price and bestowed upon her a new identity. Mary Pickford. Before Mary, film acting was exaggerated and theatrical. Without sound, actors flailed and made grotesque faces to convey emotion. Mary changed everything. Invention of the internal language. She realized that if she simply felt the emotion, the camera would capture it. She pioneered the stillness of the screen. Watching her early Biograph shorts reveals this revolution in real time. While others wildly waved their arms as if caught in a storm, Mary remained quiet. She used her eyes, the tilt of her head, subtle shifts in expression. She discovered the power of the close-up. This created an unprecedented bond between performer and audience. For the first time, viewers in a dark theater felt as if they were inside the mind of the person on screen. This was not acting in the traditional sense. It was pure presence. The mystery of the Biograph Girl Studios, driven by greed, refused to credit Mary by name. They aimed to keep stars anonymous, to prevent them from gaining leverage or demanding higher pay. Yet the public refused to be denied. Within months, audiences queued not for a Biograph film, but for the girl with the curls. Her name was unknown, but her heart was unmistakable. Letters poured in by the thousands, demanding to know who she was. Mary watched this phenomenon with a cold, calculating gaze. She realized a fundamental truth that would forever change the world's economy. The audience didn't belong to Griffith or Biograph. They belonged to her. By 1911, the Biograph Girl was America's most famous woman, not even 20 years old. She had invented a new art form, forced directors to respect her, and created a global brand before the word brand was in use. The little trooper from Toronto had found the spark, and she was about to set the world ablaze. This section is a high-density, detailed expansion of parts 3 and 4, focusing on the era when Mary Pickford ceased to be merely a girl and transformed into an institution. The Architect of the Silver Screen, Volume 2, The Strategy of the Crown and the Great Rebellion. Part 3, The Strategy of America's Sweetheart, 1912 to 1918. The Birth of a Global Archetype. By 1912, the world was shifting rapidly. The Industrial Revolution had pulled millions into grimy cities. and the Great War loomed on the horizon. Amid this anxiety, Mary Pickford became more than an actress. She became an emotional anchor for humanity. Branded as America's sweetheart, with her golden curls, petite frame, and eyes that seemed to hold the weight of the world's sorrows, she embodied a purity the modern world was losing. Yet, here lies an anthropological truth. Her characters were never passive victims. Whether a rag picker in the slums or a farm girl, Mary portrayed women with fierce, fiery spirits. They fought back. This blend of angelic beauty and iron will made her the most trusted face on earth. People didn't just admire her. They surrendered their hearts. The war with the movie barons. Behind the scenes, the sweetheart was a ruthless strategist. Mary understood a fundamental truth that studio moguls ignored. In this new medium, power belonged not to the men behind the cameras, but to the faces adored by the public. In 1913, Mary joined famous players, led by Adolf Zukor, a man who would build the Paramount Empire. Zukor viewed actors as cattle, but Mary met her match. Mary grasped the concept of asset value. She knew Zukor used her films to coerce theaters into buying dozens of mediocre titles, a practice called block booking. In 1916, Mary staged a masterclass in negotiation. She demanded a salary of $10,000 per week, an astronomical amount, plus 50% of her film's profits. Zukor turned pale and attempted intimidation, but Mary stood firm. She knew that if she walked away, Zukor's business model would collapse. She became the first woman in history to earn a seven-figure income, proving that sweetness was a billion-dollar brand she owned completely. The architect of creative control, Mary, didn't stop at money. She demanded and won the right to creative approval. She chose her own scripts, directors, and oversaw lighting and editing. She was a producer in everything but name, long before the term auteur was coined. She realized her image was her legacy, and she refused to let any man tarnish it with shoddy craftsmanship. Mary weaponized her fame to gain total autonomy in a male-dominated world. Part 4. The Great Rebellion. United Artists, 1919. The inmates take over the asylum. By 1919, major studios sought to consolidate power into monopolies, turning stars into fixed assets, controlling their lives, bodies, and creativity via ironclad contracts. Mary saw the gilded cage closing, and knew if she didn't act, she'd become a corporate slave. On a historic day in 1919, Mary summoned three of the most powerful creative minds: Charlie Chaplin, king of comedy; Douglas Fairbanks, swashbuckling hero; and visionary director D.W. Griffith. In a New York hotel room, they signed a document shaking the financial world. United Artists was born. When news broke, Richard Rowland, head of Metro Pictures, sneered. The inmates are taking over the asylum. He was painfully wrong. Mary Pickford was no inmate. She was the architect of a new world order. The Declaration of Artistic Independence. United Artists was a radical experiment, an artist-owned distribution system. For the first time, creators held the keys to the kingdom. Ownership of the negative. Mary insisted artists own the physical master film, the negative, since ownership meant control of the future. Creative sovereignty. No studio heads dictated budgets or edits. Artists were free to succeed or fail on their own terms. Total profit retention. Instead of flat fees, every box office dollar flowed directly to the artists. Mary, the iron-willed executive. Among the four founders, Mary's business acumen was unmatched. While Chaplin was temperamental and Griffith outdated, Mary understood spreadsheets and financial strategy. She attended board meetings, analyzed distribution charts, and made tough decisions about theater acquisitions. She proved that a woman who appeared angelic could run a multinational corporation with the ruthlessness of a Wall Street tycoon. Under her leadership, United Artists became a beacon of artistic freedom. She rewrote Hollywood's rules. From that day, artists became owners of the Dream Factory. not mere workers. Imagine the magnificence. A woman in her late 20s, standing among America's most powerful, greedy men, forcing them to play by her rules. Mary Pickford didn't just survive Hollywood, she conquered it and brought it to its knees. Part 5. Hollywood Royalty. The Pickford Era, 1920s. The dawn of the Western Vatican. If United Artists was Mary's sword to conquer Hollywood, then Pickford was her throne. In 1920, Mary married Douglas Fairbanks, the world's greatest swashbuckler. Their union was more than marriage. It was a merger of two global empires, the first true supercouple, a phenomenon dwarfing any modern tabloid sensation. Their estate, Pickford, perched on a Beverly Hills hill, became the cultural universe's center. Imagine the magnificence: a sprawling manor with rolling lawns, a legendary swimming pool filled with canoes, and dining rooms where history was whispered over crystal glasses. Pickford was nicknamed the Second White House. Kings, queens, scientists like Albert Einstein, and literary giants like H.G. Wells didn't just visit Los Angeles. They paid homage to Mary and Doug at Pickford. Mary managed her household with the surgical precision she wielded in the studio. She was the queen of Hollywood, her court the most exclusive club in history. She transformed actors from social outcasts to legitimate global aristocracy. The golden shackles of the little girl. But beneath champagne toasts and glittering galas, a profound anthropological tragedy unfolded. Mary was now in her 30s, a CEO, landowner, brilliant strategist. Yet the American public and the world refused to let her grow up. Audiences demanded Mary continue playing 12-year-old girls with golden curls. What a heartbreaking sacrifice. To maintain her throne, Mary underwent a daily ritual of infantilization. She bound her breasts tightly to hide womanly curves, wore short pinafores, and mastered childish mannerisms. She famously called her iconic curls the golden shackles. But Titan trapped in a nursery. While her husband Doug evolved from pirate to knight, Mary was imprisoned in eternal childhood. This was the dark side of stardom she had created. As a symbol, she lost the right to age, change, or be human. She belonged to the dream of the masses. Part 6. The Brutal Transition. Sound and the Sacrifice, 1927-1933. When the silence shattered. In 1927, the jazz singer changed cinema forever. The talkies arrived, throwing the industry into panic. For Mary, who had spent 20 years perfecting a language of eyes and soul, sound was a desecration. She said, "Adding sound to movies is like putting lipstick on the Venus de Milo." She knew the mystery of silent film, where audiences imagined the star's voice, was dying. But Mary was no victim. A warrior at heart, she knew that survival meant adaptation. She performed a symbolic execution of her childhood by cutting off her golden curls, a global scandal that sent headlines worldwide, as if a national monument had fallen. Mary's message was clear: I am no longer your child. I am a woman. In 1929, she starred in Coquette, her first talkie, playing a flirtatious Southern belle. With obsessive detail, she worked with voice coaches to ensure her tone matched her stature. The result was triumph. Mary Pickford won the Academy Award for Best Actress. She had conquered the new medium, proving her talent transcended hairstyle or silent frames. The Queen's final bow. Yet victory was bittersweet. The Great Depression arrived and public tastes shifted toward gritty, cynical realism. The era of the sweetheart faded, replaced by femme fatales and gangsters. Mary, with her sharp intuition, saw this change. Instead of clinging to fading stardom or playing mother roles, she made a courageous choice. She walked away. After Secrets, 1933, Mary Pickford retired at the height of her dignity, refusing to grow old or irrelevant before her audience. What incredible pride she possessed. She had built the temple of cinema and chose to exit on her own terms, leaving the stage to newcomers like Greta Garbo. Though her face vanished from the screen, her power remained absolute. She retreated to Pickford's shadows, not as a fallen star, but a retired empress, devoted to protecting the history she helped create. Part 7. The Legacy Beyond the Lens, 1934 to 1979. The Power Behind the Throne. When Mary stepped away from cameras in 1933, many thought America's sweetheart had vanished. They were wrong. Mary didn't retire, she shifted battlegrounds. Remaining a majority owner of United Artists, she presided over board meetings, outmaneuvering aggressive men in the business. While the public missed her face, the industry felt her influence. She fiercely protected artists' rights to profit, fought legal battles, invested in real estate, and grew her fortune to become one of the wealthiest self-made women in the world. From a girl sleeping in drafty boarding houses emerged California's most formidable shadow tycoon, the guardian of the silent ghost. Perhaps Mary's greatest contribution came when she realized the medium she helped birth was physically decaying. Early films were made of nitrate, a volatile, flammable material that disintegrated over time. Studios often discarded old films as junk, but Mary knew these were treasures of history. She spent her fortune tracking, buying back, and preserving original negatives from her era. She understood that if these films perished, the soul of early 20th century culture would vanish. She donated her vast collection to the Library of Congress. Without her foresight, 80% of silent cinema, the foundation of modern storytelling, would have been lost forever. The Recluse of Pickford. As decades passed, Mary became a living legend, a ghost haunting Pickford's halls. She witnessed cinema's golden age give way to television and blockbusters. Increasingly reclusive, she preferred memories and the company of her third husband, Buddy Rogers. The public's image of her remained frozen, the girl with curls, while inside she was a sage who had seen it all. In 1976, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which she helped found, awarded her an honorary Oscar. Too frail to attend, cameras came to her. For a brief moment, the world saw her again, small, white-haired, but with eyes burning with the same fire Gladys Smith had in 1909. The final word. The woman who owned the dream, Mary Pickford, passed away in 1979 at age 87, marking the end of an era. Yet her life remains a blueprint for every powerful woman in entertainment today. What a journey. She was the first to realize fame is a trap without ownership. She taught that beauty is a brand, but ownership is freedom. She showed the world that a woman could be America's sweetheart, while simultaneously being the most dangerous person in the boardroom. Epilogue. The Permanent Shadow. Today, whenever an actress launches her own production company, fights for rights to her master recordings, or when we watch restored silent films, we live in Mary Pickford's world. She was poverty's child who became the queen of dreams. She didn't merely play a role in Hollywood's history. She wrote the script, directed the scenes, and owned the studio. Mary Pickford was, and forever will be, the woman who invented the movie star.